welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I am co-host Nessa. Thanks for joining us again. Before we start, can I show off how cool my mic is right now? I got a protection cover for it.
Wow, so fancy. So the Sharks are terrible. I don't recall a whole lot from the last couple of games. I think we're on another streak, right? We're on another losing streak.
Probably, which is what we want.
Who did we play? Oh, we played against the Oilers. They almost shut us out. And
Labanc came through though.
And even when we managed to spoil their shutout, there wasn't really too much to be excited about. I see. Okay. In the last 5 games, we have lost to the Ducks. We have lost to the Bruins. We managed to win against the Coyotes. We lost to the Kings. And we lost to the Oilers. And
tomorrow we'll lose to the Devils.
We'll probably lose against them. The Stars will probably kick our butts, and with the exception of maybe the Blue Jackets, the rest of the matches are not looking... Oh yeah, we're on a long road trip all the way through mid-February, and it's a gauntlet.
Perfect.
So
I need them to win like 10 games straight.
It's gonna be a rough road for us, but let's talk about Labanc though. He was benched during the Ducks game? I don't remember what happened like on the blue line, but he let whoever the heck come streaking in and score, and then he got benched for the whole second period or something like that.
Like half of it or something.
Yeah, and then he ended up back on the first line, but in the last couple of games I noticed that now he's on a line with
the third line.
Yeah, with Sturm and it escapes me. Who's the other guy? What's his bucket? The new dude was on
Asimont? I don't know.
Asimont? Yeah. I think he got a chance to play on the first line. I think he did okay for coming in as the new dude. And I remember there were a number of moments where he made attempts to get towards the net and, really, really putting himself out there to make an impact. Surrounded with everyone else who's not doing terribly much these days, it's difficult to do that. But I see that he's still on the first line during practice lines today, and I think Grier and Labanc are getting swapped in and out on the third line.
Interesting. Which it doesn't surprise me, but it's interesting. The game he got benched, I believe he scored and had an assist in the first period.
Right, he scored the first goal, and then he got an assist on the final goal, I think. And did we win that game? It's so hard to tell these days.
I don't know. They all blur together. They all look the same to me now. I remember Shane tweeting about it, and he goes, what do you call that type of hat trick? Because you know how there's the Gordie Howe, the assist, the goal, and the fight. What do you call an assist, the goal, and a benching in one game?
A Labanc.
The Labanc.
It's a Labanc, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This guy, I don't know what to do with him anymore. And I mean, he was looking good for a little bit. All things considered, he was on the first line, so how much can we really take from that? But now he's kind of, I don't know what's up with him. I mean, I don't know what's up with this entire team, but in particular Labanc, because he just has been up and down ever since, we got him.
I don't know if you saw that Shane interviewed Grier recently. Like, he put out an article about that interview. He was asking him about trade rumors, of course, the Carlson rumor about the 3 draft picks, anything on Meyer, And then he mentioned other names like Sturm and Nieto. But what I found interesting was that he never asked about Labanc.
No one's asking about him. Well, I guess we can talk about Eric Carlson because everybody is talking about him. There was a tweet that came out, and I don't know how legitimate this account is. And I think Grier was asked about it, and he, for the most part, kind of denied that any of that is true. Um, this tweet came from Beer League Hero with an E at the end, saying that according to Bob Staffer, I think that's how you say the last name, the San Jose Sharks want 3 first-round picks for Eric Carlson, and they're willing to retain up to 18% of his contract.
Greer said that's not exactly accurate. So I'm wondering like what bits of it are.
Like, I'd imagine there's some hope to get a high draft pick from a possible Carlson trade. Is it gonna happen? Is a trade gonna happen at this point in time with that many years left on his contract with how expensive it is? Probably not, but it's really kind of amusing to see folks that are just every interview with him, they are trying to get him
Yeah.
to say
And
something, to run
he
with it,
he
to
won't. He
yeah,
doesn't give him
and
anything.
yeah, and he knows how to conduct these interviews, and it's just from a fan perspective on this team, it's starting to get a little exhausting. And like I've mentioned offline, if he doesn't get traded this year and the Sharks continue to be terrible, it's just going to be year after year. They're going to, especially if he continues producing the way that he does, we're just going to have to constantly hear about it.
Yeah. Well, so in that interview with Shane, he did say that he is in a hurry to get rid of Carlson because of the way he's producing and like what he can do for the team in the future. And like obviously his hope is to get to the playoffs next year if they can, but I don't really see him actually trading him. If anything, I'm more concerned about Meyer because he's his RFA contract is up or something. I don't know how this works. He has a contract thing coming up this off season. He's a great player. He produces really well. He's a big dude, great skater, whatever. He should probably be an all-star this year too. Let's vote him in. um but like what can a player like Timo bring to the team? Like a first and a second, maybe a prospect. Like, what do you?
Sounds good. Get that trade done.
But again, like we touched on this last time when we were talking about trades, is that I don't want to get rid of him because Timo, like since I've been following the Sharks, he seems to be the most consistent goal scorer on the team since I've been following, which is now coming up on what 7 years now. So I don't want to see them give that up because imagine when they finally do bring up an Eklund or a Bordelot, like imagine how great that team would be because Eklund has made some insane passes in the AHL for either for other teammates to score or they don't score. But like I've seen some clips here and there and just like he's a mini George Thornton.
The little bit that I saw before this season when he was down in the Swedish league, he does kind of play that role, like a Joe Thornton role, especially on the power play with the team that he was on. He was down like near the goal line, and he was just kind of like the feeder for the quarterback, so to speak. So I guess for me, like, in the beginning of the season, I was more or less preparing for, yeah, let's see Timo off, kind of like when Hurdle's contract was up. that whole season I was preparing for him to leave, and actually I was kind of shocked when he didn't. Just actually, wait, I take that back. His personality, he's very loyal.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in that respect, yeah, I can understand that. I think he truly loves being here. He loves the guys, and he wants to bring the cup here.
Do we know when his baby's due? So he can get those
No.
bat powers. Maybe it'll
Yeah.
be too late when the season's over.
I have no idea. But with Timo, I guess right now I don't see this team getting back into the playoffs next season. I mean, a whole lot can happen between now with the upcoming trade deadline and then in the off season, what moves we make. It concerns me to add another however long contract they would consider giving to him, just because we have so many of those other guys that are on long-term contracts. I really don't think Vlasic is gonna get bought out at all. If it ends up happening, I'll be really interested in seeing how we kind of work all that out, especially because we have what Jones is on our books for several more years, and we bought out Balsers.
Oh yeah. Well, but his
Yeah.
contract wasn't big.
Yeah, so his is going to be up next year, but we still have Jones on the books until 26, 27, and the next year is going to be the biggest hit of that buyout. So I don't really know as far as like how all that works with salaries and all that stuff, and how that plays into. I'm sure there's other teams that have a number of people on buyout that look much worse than what we do. But yeah, I guess with all of that, I don't see any of those bigger contracts being moved. So I guess I'm a little uncertain what we do about Timo.
Do we know how long Labanc is still on the
He is here until next season.
So what if they buy him out?
No, I don't think that would happen. I think you would want to try and deal him
Yeah, probably.
and buy it. And he doesn't have that long of a contract that I don't think it makes sense to consider buying someone out. Like, I don't know how much more money we would save doing that. But that brings up an interesting point that like Timo would need a contract this year, and then maybe you try and trade Labanc next season, so that frees up about 4-ish mil.
If they want to keep Meyer, like for sure you can see a future with him on the Sharks. I could see Grier making the decision of maybe buying out Vlasic to kind of give us a little bit more cap space. Like, he's a great dude in the locker room. Like, he's very lovable, and he's a friend of Grier's, right? They played together. But, again, just taking from that interview I read, like, he's going to do what's best for the team as well, you know?
Can you imagine buying out your friend?
I know. I'll buy you dinner, though. So bad.
That must be such a strange, like, I'm sure they respect each other, but can you imagine you used to be teammates with someone, all of a sudden they're like your boss?
Yeah, I know. Like, these dudes respect each other. It's not going to be personal.
I know, but I think there's some level of it being weird.
Yeah, for sure.
You're like, no hard feelings, bro, but
So
your contract is way too much, and I need you to get off the team.
So here's my thing. Since I've been a little following football a little bit more closely, they have the option to restructure a contract with a player. Why can't the NHL do that?
I was actually talking with my uncle this past week about, because that side of my family is like diehard like baseball fans and stuff, and he kind of gets hockey knowledge from me. So
Are they Mets fans?
they're Yankees fans.
Oh, gross. Ugh,
Ew,
I'm just
excuse
kidding.
you.
I'm just
I'm
kidding.
I'm original Yankees fan. I mean, that was my first introduction to sports because when I was in New York,
Yeah.
your baseball is huge there, and my family is Yankees fans, so I became a Yankees fan. At the time, I was mostly just watching it for like a player, right? You don't really understand too much at that age about
Very
the
nice.
greater aspect of it.
That's who I followed.
When he retired, I was like heartbroken, and like I spent some time away from baseball and spending most of my time growing up in the Bay Area. Like I would go to baseball games because they were fun to watch, and but eventually I became a Giants fan. So I still have a place in my heart for the Yankees, but I don't know anybody on that team anymore.
Except for Aaron
Um,
Judge.
oh yeah, the one dude.
Big eye roll.
I'm wearing Yankees PJs right now.
I don't know how I feel about that. No, I'm just kidding. We were talking about the restructuring, huh? Let's get back to that. What were you saying?
Oh yeah. So I mean, I was just talking about contracts with my uncle because he was asking me about how those are kind of put together, and I think he mentioned in because he asked me, oh, when people go on injured reserve, do they still get um, paid?
Mhm.
And I don't remember which sport he mentioned that. Oh, when they get injured, they don't and they get put on IR or whatever, like they're not getting paid. And I was like, oh no, like the contracts in the NHL, like we can even go back to like the Kane situation where we were trying to get rid of his contract. It was like really difficult. So I was
Mhm.
saying like, no, they still get paid when they're injured. Like it's really hard to get a contract terminated. I don't know too much else about other sports, but it was interesting to me that like, oh, when you get injured, you don't get paid anymore. Like I don't know how that would, like with hockey. I mean, I don't think it's as bad as in football where they look like they're like dropping like flies left and right. But with hockey, I mean, some of those injuries like pretty bad. Like, can
Mm.
you imagine, especially in comparison to like MLB and like the NBA, like they make like major bucks. Like you're if you don't get paid for like a season, I'm sure you
You'll
can get rid of
survive.
one of your cars.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be that tough on your life. But not to say that we should take pity on the hockey player that's making like league minimum. I mean, they're still getting paid way more than I will ever see, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so we were talking about contracts and stuff. But anyways, what were you gonna
Oh,
say?
well, because my thing was like, if it was an option to restructure contracts in the NHL, they could talk to a Vlasic and a Labanc and be like, listen, over these years you guys weren't producing, so we're gonna have to knock down your pay a little bit. Or like, uh, I don't know, either same amount of pay but extend it over a longer period of time so it's like less on the books per year or something. I don't know. Help them work around it and like be able to sign more valuable players like
But
Timo.
like as a player, are you gonna care about that though? I don't think
No.
you would. And then even if they were willing to do that, or maybe like the GM was trying to do that, I think that goes down to like the NHL, was it the PA, the ones that are kind of like their union.
Mhm.
I think you have to end up like that becomes a discussion with them. So
Listen, this sport is all about it's a team sport and I will do everything I can to win the cup. So I'm just saying. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, so Grier,
sadly, I don't think it's going to happen. But if he can find a way to move some money around, find some something, like we're in desperate need. Like he needs to become a magician and make things disappear.
yeah, if he decides to go on a trading spree, I hope he keeps Sturm. I really like him. Because let's see, Shane asked him about Sturm and Matt Benning. Um, He
I feel
said,
like it could go either way because when I was looking at it initially, I was thinking, oh, well, there's no way that we would trade him. I mean, we gave him like a 4-year contract. It looks like he's pretty devoted to him. But then I started thinking about like how that works in favor of the team or the potential team to get somebody because unlike the shorter contracts where when they're
contract is up at the end of the season, they can
like
leave.
they could get more money
Yeah.
versus if you sign them for longer periods of time, then like the whole inflation and
Yeah.
like wanting more money, like that you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think it could go either way, but
He said he'd have to
it
think pretty strongly about moving someone like them, but that a lot of teams that are in playoff contention value those type of players. So I could see him doing it, but I could also see him not doing it. I don't know. Greer doesn't give us much, and it's a little like frustrating because I can't read him. Just give me a
I
little
think
something.
I think he's actually going to move some guys that he didn't sign. I think he would like to structure this team with folks that fit his model. So I don't now that we're considering those things, I can see him not being his first option to trade away dudes that he signed.
Yeah, and we're like halfway through the season now, and it seems like his style of play is like very gritty, very like in your face, doing a lot of the little things and like really just getting in there and grinding. Uh,
Because more of the guys that are doing the things that stick out are the ones that he signed, right? With the exception of like Carlson, Timo.
that's
Yeah.
it. Because Hurdle's struggling. Because sure is
hmm
non-existent.
Oh yeah, he's a ghost out there. Um, Eklund got into a fight.
Yeah, that's so weird. He seems like so
So I didn't watch the
soft.
game, but I did see a longer clip of it, and so just not the fight in itself. But it looked like the guy he fought like kind of came at one of the other Kuda or like hit them weird or something like that, and they must have been losing the game too. So,
Yeah,
so
he
I
got
think he took.
frustrated or something.
Yeah, I think he got frustrated, but he did not win that fight.
No, he
He
didn't
looked
lose.
like a rag doll just getting thrown around, and
That way he
um,
learns. Don't get into fight.
so I mean, my heart goes out to you for giving it a try, but that
Not your forte.
yeah, that did not look pretty. That guy was completely in control of kicking your butt. Yeah, so I guess our little queer talk for today is I binged House of the Dragon. Are you a fan of Game of Thrones at all?
No, I don't follow. I read the very
Okay.
first book. I read it through because I was like, I'm gonna read the book first and then I'll watch the show. And then I never watched the show. I watched like the very first episode and that was it.
Is it a good read or is it
It's a
like the way
really
that it's
difficult.
written?
It's a really
Okay.
difficult read. It's a long book and there's a lot of difficult words and it's very small print. I mean,
Oh man.
it's an interesting story. I was able to finish it, but it's took me a little bit. And I'm a slow reader.
Did you finish like all the books or
Nope.
okay.
I read through like maybe a quarter of the second one and then I had to return the book to the library and I didn't extend it or nothing or didn't try to check it out again. So that was that.
Yeah, so I watched all of Game of Thrones. I can't really tell you too much in detail. I wouldn't be the one that would be debating all the different aspects of it, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed particular characters. I didn't really care so much about the ending as much as other people who were very invested in it. I was just more like, "Oh, that happens? Okay. Well, it's ended now." But I was drawn to House of the Dragon because Matt Smith is in it.
Oh my gosh. Of course.
Yeah. So, and he is a Targaryen.
Hmm. He's part of like an
And
incest thing, right? I've seen
yeah,
rumors.
there's some of that in there. Some of that in there. So, you know, a lot of like what was weird about Game of Thrones, but given the time, it kind of makes sense. There's a little bit of that still in House of the Dragon. I really liked. I was way more invested in characters in this series. I think Game of Thrones was harder to get invested because there were so many characters. It's exhausting to follow every house, to like care about each and every, you know, aspect of it. But with House of the Dragon, they focus more on the Targaryens and then, you know, other people that kind of intersect that family. So I really got invested in especially the female characters. I like even the ones that felt like they were the villains.
Mm-hmm.
The way that, and again, I haven't read the books or, you know, the original text, but they kind of, the characters are created in a way where you feel for, yeah, you're not rooting for them to win, but you understand like why they're that way, and they're just kind of trying to survive in a world where, like, even in present day, like men are seen as the prize in a way.
Can I go off on a tangent here just based off of that?
Okay.
So last night my parents were watching like a nature documentary about like animals and how a lot of these species they were highlighting were very colorful species, right? Like the peacock, there was a fish, there was these different types of birds, and it was always the males who who were the very colorful ones, and they had to perform for the females. And I was like, where did society go wrong? Why didn't this transfer over to humans? Okay, continue.
But yeah, so the female characters, I for the most part, I love them all. I was way more invested in Rhaenyra's, and the second half of the series, the actor who plays Rhaenyra's, I found out later on is trans and non-binary,
Oh,
and so I got really like, oh, that's so cool and whatever. And I was watching a couple of interviews after I finished it, and they talked about how they were drawn to that character because that character is supposed to be the heir to the throne, and then like the whole first season is you see the struggle with how like people don't want that to happen. They don't want to have a queen because, you know, like men are supposed to be dominant, and she's like struggling between like, well, I don't even want it anyway, and then growing into it, and then, you know, but the whole first season is this struggle with the gender and like her not wanting to grow up and bear kids and like have to deal with all this other stuff. And so just the evolution of it, the actor had said that they were really drawn to that story because it's, you know, it's something that they can relate with, like not as directly, but just the idea of how we are born into this like perceived notion of how our gender dictates our life,
mm-hmm.
and just kind of trying to like push against it. So, and then I also saw I don't remember what house she was in Game of Thrones, but she was like the young kid that was like the head of her house. That actor I saw the other day is also non-binary, so it was just like really fun to see all these non-binary actors, and I think they're all like under 30, so just like the new generation of folks. So it's just kind of nice to see. So I just wanted to ramble on about that.
Gotta highlight the representation always.
Yeah. Anyways, so I think that's all that we kind of had today.
Yeah, pretty much. Keep it short.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a slow week. I did want to give a quick shout out to the Kalamazoo Wings for their Pride Night. I wish,
Yes.
how cool would it be if an NHL team decided to paint their ice for Pride Night? This is the same way they did. Big old rainbow flag on there. So cool.
Yes. Awesome for them. Really cool ice. I wish more teams were able to do that and just have a good time. So that's all we have for you today. We hope you're all doing well, and hopefully this storm in the Bay Area is finally coming to pass, because
I'm so sick of the rain.
I'm kind of over having a smelly wet dog. So
yeah, same. I have 3. Oh boy.
alrighty, thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Jay.
I'm co-host Nessa.
And we'll talk to you later. Bye.
I'm so uninterested.